I brought along with me a little definition of evil that we could think about. Is anybody familiar with Scott Peck? He's sort of a popular sort of self-help writer, but he's a psychiatrist. He's an actual medical doctor who argues for, he wants evil to be a psychological definition in the DSM. And he put together a criteria of recognizable evil traits. So I just thought I'd read this before we looked at this and then talk about it. His criteria for evil behavior is 1, consistent destructive scapegoating behavior which may often be quite subtle. 2, excessive, albeit usually covert, intolerance to criticism and other forms of narcissistic injury. Can't be criticized at all. Pronounced concern with a public image and self-image of respectability, contributing to a stability of lifestyle, but also to pretentiousness and denial of hateful feelings and vengeful motives. And finally, intellectual deviousness with an increased likelihood of a mild schizophrenic-like disturbance of thinking at times of stress. So, those are some things to think about. So first of all, are there any questions of anything you don't understand that was going on? I realized I didn't. Yes.
Are they being deposed? Are they being like countersued or whatever because he knew that the driver was drunk, or they're trying to say that the driver was drunk, so he shouldn't have let him drive?
That's right. They're charging emotional damages. So they're saying that even though he was drunk, Kevin knew he was drunk and shouldn't have let him drive, and so. And that's important when we talk about images of evil in this episode. I also forgot to tell you that they're dealing with her best friend had died in the episode before, so that's what a lot of the references. Yes?
How did she die?
She was killed by a drug dealer. She was in a knife fight, right? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yes, she was killed. She had gone to buy drugs and got in the middle of a fight. So, yes.
Mm-hmm. Why does the wife hate the boss so much?
Okay.
Did she do something, or did they have an affair, or like why?
Well, that's really interesting because I was watching it and I wanted to talk about. In fact, I'm really glad I actually picked this episode instead of the other one. The last episode of Joan of Arcadia was about her being introduced to an adversary, an evil figure, a guy who was going to try to go toe-to-toe with her. And he wasn't the devil, because we have to make those theological decisions, but he was just the epitome of evil. He was an evil person. And one of the reasons I kind of wanted to show it was because he was actually Wentworth Miller from Prison Break. So the point was that he was beautiful. He was handsome, he was charming, everything he did was good. And what you got was a feeling from him that something wasn't right. So in the beginning when you introduce evil, all you have to trust it is a feeling. And because what I want to talk about with Annie's character, Annie Potts, who plays his boss, her name is Lucy Preston. When we bring her in, we wanted to create that kind of character who on the surface is absolutely beyond reproach. There's nothing wrong with her that you can put a finger on. And I wanted to talk about the presence of evil in this episode, and I'll speak to that. There are 3 places that I'm really trying to depict it. First is the lawsuit, obviously. It's based on what we call a satanic inversion. The satanic inversion is when you take something and try to create its opposite by creating a life which speaks to its opposite. We have a contemporary example, and that is war is peace. That's a satanic inversion. It's not peace. Peace is peace, war is war. And it's a tool of you don't want to say evil people, but it's an aspect of evil behavior. If you want to talk about what evil is in theological terms, and I'm only sort of going to represent what the Catholic view of it is, a little bit of what the psychological view it is. Evil, among other things, is anything that creates confusion. In Catholic theology, confusion, God is never where there is confusion. That's always the devil, for lack of a, and we're not talking about the red guy with the bifurcated tail. We're talking about an energy, anything that goes against your relationship with God, and God would represent anything that is your highest potential, anything that is absolutely best for you and your highest potential, your true nature. So if the devil creates evil, he's interfering, or it's interfering with your realizing your true potential. It has a number of ways of doing that, and one of the most least recognizable ways is through charm, because the devil would be charming. He wouldn't be fire-breathing. And so if anyone ever saw Passion of Christ, one of the things that Mel Gibson did was cast a really beautiful actor as the devil. And that was pretty consistent with theology and the idea that it would be beautiful. And so your first encounter with evil is always a feeling, and then anything that tries to talk you out of your feeling, that intellectualizes or justifies it, is also an agent of evil, because you're being talked out of your highest self, and your highest self is your intuition, that connection to God. And so the satanic inversion is used over and over again to sort of let the presence of evil prevail. So as I'm watching it, okay, so the lawsuit is a perfect example, turning the truth around and saying, no, it wasn't the guy's fault for being drunk. It's inverting the truth and saying it was his fault for not being the guardian of me, and then using a very intellectual justification for that, which is, the idea we live in a climate of spin. You can justify any argument. It's not hard to win an argument. You just need to have an understanding of semantics. And then it takes us to be discerning. One example is, how many people have seen No Country for Old Men? It was my favorite movie this year. And one of the things, and obviously that character, the evil character, is the what we think of evil as being, just so overtly evil. But one of the most evil things that he does is the scene when he's flipping the quarter, when he's going to flip the quarter for the guy's life. There's a scene where we know that he's probably going to kill the guy. He lets the guy flip a coin and a head toss. What he's doing is letting in a satanic inversion, creating the illusion that the guy actually has some say and whether or not he's going to kill him, but he doesn't. And he does it again later when he goes to kill a good character, and she refuses to participate in the lie, the satanic inversion of, I have a choice in this. And she has some great line about, this has nothing to do with the quarter. And it was a great scene, because you see someone who's very simple, not being the intellectual equal of the person who is operating on her, but having a very pure connection to her intuition and her feeling about, this is, without having the language to say this is the satanic inversion. This is somebody trying to trade the lie for truth in a very complicated way.